Perfect. So we host this mastermind every Tuesday, guys. Right now, we just kind of invite others outside. So usually it's about 10 to 15 people that we'll have on the mastermind. Small group, focus on teams. This is open to anyone and everyone, whether you're on a team or not, or if you're a solo agent. But we're just going to go over 2024's business plan session. So I'm going to share a presentation that I put together, something that we're working on for our December 15th event that we're going to be doing in our office in San Diego. And we're also going to be doing this in Austin, Texas, November 12th, 13th, and 14th. So we have an Austin, Texas event, which a lot of you guys are coming to. And then we also have our other one coming up. Just want to make sure that everyone has access. I'm getting some messages here, so I want to get them access to it. And I will share my screen and we'll get going on the 2024 business plan. But first, anyone that has any particular issues going on in their business that you would like to chat about. So I know that Matt, Alex, Isela, Mary, Donna, I see a bunch of regulars on here. Zach, if you guys have any issues in your business that you guys have, anything you'd like to discuss, if not, forever hold your peace. What we usually typically will do is we'll go through kind of issues list, anything that people have questions on, and then we jump into our weekly topic. So I'm going to share my screen here. And we've got our, let's do a little bit bigger screen there. Cool. Everyone thumbs up. You can see the screen. Sweet. All right. So talked about kind of issues in your business. If you have anything going on, we talked about our next event that we have November 12th through the 14th in Austin, Texas. We're going to be doing goal setting and really chopping up the goals. This is kind of like a mini session based on this, but this is going to be a 2-day event. It's on the 13th and 14th, essentially. The 12th is kind of a welcome party. But if you're around, we're also going to have an employee of mine that focuses just on AI. He's going to share everything that we're doing to automate all of our all of our systems, processes, everything that we have going on our team on the back end with Follow Up Boss and Wailopo to help our agents out. And then I also have a guest speaker coming in from Denver that's going to be speaking on YouTube. And he sold year to date 40 million so far just off of YouTube, which means 0 referral fees. Lots of work, but he kills it on the YouTube sessions. So a lot of you guys, we are right now talking about this right here, essentially. And this is something that everyone's probably seen. It's Tom Ferry's conversations goal. And I'm all about it. But the problem about it is that not everyone's math is the same. So we talked about this last week. And my buddy, he hosted it for his team of 150 agents. And essentially we talked about this as like transaction goal times 40, which you can see there under your annual quota. That should be able to give you your conversation goal. The problem is not everyone's at the same level. So some people are going to be at 100. Some people are going to be at 20. My top agents do not have to do 40 calls to get a sale. Now, because of the market's changing quite a, it's a little bit more difficult. But when the market was hot, it'd be like almost every other phone call you answer, you were selling a house. Conversion now is dipping. So you got to watch seasonality and you got to see, what do you think, how many conversations you have to have? The only way that you're ever going to know how many conversations you have to have is if you track and measure this stuff. So I would honestly call through all of your CRM stuff through, like we have it through Follow Up Boss. Sierra Interactive does this. If you use that system, it's going to log your call. Then you can go back after 6 months and look at your data, maybe even every quarter and be like, okay, how many conversations did I have to get here? I shared with the team, we had a guy call 6,000 people. And it was his first month of real estate. And he ended up getting a listing, but it was a $1.5 million listing. So 6,000 people. The other thing in life, don't call busy people randomly. It's very weird. Just text them. It's so much fucking easier. No, I get phone calls and I'm like, dude, every time I watch, I'll be like, is there ever a time I'm not busy? No. On a Zoom. Then he'll text me. It's the exact same story. You'd think you'd learn. This here, though, you jump down to your transactions goal. Buyers and sellers. If you're newer, majority of your clients are going to be buyers. So, guys, this is just an overview of what I actually don't really like about planning for a year. We're going to deep dive into what I do for my year, but this is just a good baseline. So say that you want to do 14 transactions. This person put 13 there, 1 on the seller transactions, total listings taken. You're going to have expired listings this year. 2024 is going to be probably the same as the current situation we have. So understand that you're going to have more listings taken than what you're going to sell. So this person here, if they're brand new, they're probably going to take 3 listings and have 2 of them expire. That's just the sad news about agents. If you're experienced or if you can crush listings, it's probably 100%. It all goes back to like, how good are you at presenting your listing presentation, your value proposition, everything that you know about real estate to get the seller to come down. Right now in Southern California, guys, the 28% of listings are having price reductions. So when you go to take a listing, you need to tell your clients 28% are actually having price reductions. That's important about pricing. So we either price it here and wait and reduce the price just like everyone else, or we price it correctly from the very beginning. As we know, sellers always want more. So start practicing those scripts today so that you don't have to have a fallout rate of maybe 30, 40% of your listings. Why do we spend all this time prospecting, getting a seller, and the seller's not even realistic? So practice your skills to make sure you can up this. My biggest thing is starting with your why. So why the heck are we going through all this process? Why would you want to go through this hell of being a real estate agent? When the times are good, it's fun, but we complain. We're, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, but we complain about that. Now times are getting tougher. It's going to shift. So why are you getting into real estate? I honestly think that that's the biggest thing to start with. The funny thing is I was listening to Masterclass, which is the app that you can go and listen for, I think, $10 a month. And I was listening to Kris Kardashian's, which is funny is I've never seen a Kardashian show ever, but I know like so much about them just because of how good they are at personal branding and how much they're out in the media. You see and hear about them all the time for everything. And her thing was all about starting with why. And she does a vision board. She sits there and visualizes like everything she's going to accomplish. She's been a hustler. She tells her story on the masterclass. She's been a hustler since she was a little kid. Their friends were all playing in La Jolla Shores. She was at her grandma's store and her mom's store in La Jolla, selling candles and blankets and doing everything else. So she goes and does a vision board every single year. I'm sure hers is probably like bigger jets and more cars and jewelry. But start with your vision board. Vision boards work. If at your desk you don't have your vision board up or your goals up in visual, that's a huge no-no. Out of sight, out of mind, up in visual, right in front of you every single day. So if it's, I personally think you should probably put more like actual photos of your family on vacations. If you want to have a reason why, I've heard the best thing you do if you have kids, have an accountability partner. Tell your kid, hey, we can go to Disney World or we can go to Disneyland if dad makes his calls and gets this many sales this year. If dad doesn't, we don't get to do it. So you get your family's buy-in on it. That's going to be a huge motivation. Or your spouses. If your spouse is like nagging you that you're at work and you're like, hey, I got to get this shit done. Our life doesn't just support ourselves. Just, it's not the same times as what it was. So make sure that they're on board with your vision. I heard this last week too through my buddy Eric. He said, how many days a week are you showing up next year? So are you a 4-day-a-week kind of person? And I mean showing up like 100%. So we'll deep dive into like how I chop up all my financial plan, all my cash and debts, my buildings owned. Everything is going to go into that. But it all starts off with like, are you committed or are you just interested? Because if you're just interested, you're not going to be a real estate agent next year. Your agents on your team, your ones that are just kind of half-assing shit, or even if you as a team leader, or if you're a solo agent, if you're not 100% committed this year, it's going to be tough next year. It's already getting tougher. Financial plan. So this is what I suggest you do. Take your average sales price and your average commission check. You want to look at what your 2024 GCI goal would be. So let's say $200,000. So if you put in here $200,000, all right, and then you say projected net commissions from GCI. What this means is what are you taking home after your splits? So say you're on a 70-30 split, you're going to put in $140,000 here. Other related tax income, or I'm sorry, other real estate related tax income. Pre-tax, what's going to be? You're going to have rental property income. You have no rental properties, that's zero. Revenue share, if you're EXP, KW, whatever your revenue share is per month. Mine currently, $22,000 a month. So I can put on that $22,000, multiply that by 12. That's my annual pre-tax income. And I can also put on there my rental properties. So anything that you have outside of your regular real estate sales, put in there. I would highly suggest making sure you have something outside of just your regular real estate sales. Otherwise, you're in a hamster wheel. When you go and you have these goals, when we talked about vision board stuff, your vision, if you don't own a real estate property yet, you should be buying a multi-unit. Cool thing about America, what's happening November 18th? I think it's November 18th. Anybody know?
5% down or 2 to 4 units.
5%. So you can do 2 to 4 units, 5%, which is, it used to be 20%. So you can move into 1 unit. So November 18th, you better be shopping with your clients right now, hitting up all those young people that are like, I don't have enough for a down payment. I don't have 20%. People already think that they have to have 20% down just to buy a single family residence. Now you can essentially buy a freaking Monopoly hotel, 4 units, back in the old days when you'd have the little Monopoly game. Now you can buy 4 units with freaking only 5% down. So highly suggest that. All right. So say you got 0 on this for your other tax income. Total projected pre-tax income. Obviously you had 0 on 1, so it's $140,000. Figure out what your tax bracket should be, and then you can do your net income. I would go through and I would make sure your average commission check, that number. For our team, it's $5,900 and something dollars. That's their take home. So if they crush over and over, the problem is, and the reason why it's lower is because we have Zillow Flex fee, we have Porchside real estate fee, but it gives an agent a good foundation. If you're on a team, it's a great starting point, and then it allows you to get those past clients. Then you get the referrals. But if you're not getting referrals from your online leads or anything that you're generating from your team, you're missing the whole point. It's essentially like breastfeeding, and you're going to be breastfeeding until you're like 22 years old. You're supposed to be moving on. So make sure you've got that plan in place to move on, not leaving your team. You can stay on your team. Just make sure your team has something set up to where you kind of graduate to the next steps. Online leads are fantastic. That's how I started my career. But if you sit there and you're paying those referral fees one after another and you're not getting any referrals from it, something's wrong. So figure out your tax income, what projected tax is. Now on this year, this is your cash and your debts. So liquidity. Right now, some people are feeling it because the market is not like it was for the last 2 years. So liquidity, you should always have 6 months. Now I keep mine 2 months liquid in my accounts, and then I keep at least 4 months additional in stocks. So with EXP, I opt in. The only stock I buy is EXP stock, and it's only because EXP gives us a discount of 10%. So whenever you sell a house, say your commission's $10,000, take a little bit of it and do it automatically so you don't even have to see it, and throw it into the S&P 500. If you're not at EXP will do this automatically for you. They'll take 5% of your check, and then they'll throw that into buying EXP stock at a 10% discount. So if you're on, Howard, if you're on Serene Team like you are, and you're not signed up for that, email stocks at EXP and get that signed up immediately. Because the coolest thing about it, it's like a forced savings account. And then your liquidity, when shit hits the fan, like things are happening right now, and you may need a little extra money. I had a girl that joined our brokerage, or I'm sorry, the brokerage, but not our team. She's like, Mark, I have no money. Like, I need to sell one of my properties. I'm like, well, how much do you have in stocks? She goes, I don't own any stocks. I said, yeah, you do. When you signed up at EXP, I made you sign up for the stock program. She goes, I don't think I did. I don't have that. I said, no, I made you do it. She checked. She had $36,000. She didn't have to sell her rental property. So think about ways that you can kind of force money out of sight, out of mind, for that liquidity for oh shit moments like today. Your mortgages, figure out the rate and the amount. You can fill in those. I do all of this, guys, and I'll share with you in a little bit. It's all on a Google Sheet. So I have all my mortgages in one section. I have all my cash and debts in another one. Thankfully, I'm 100% debt free. So that's something I love to just constantly. I have an American Express. I pay it off every single month. I have a Chase Sapphire card. But when I got into real estate, that was not the case. On here with your credit cards, know the exact rate you're paying and the amount you owe. And I would even put the minimum payment. Pay your minimum payment every single month because credit score is the most important thing you can focus on. But if you have something with the highest rate, pay that credit card down first. Dave Ramsey says pay the one with the smallest amount, but hell, if one's freaking 14% and one's 26, I would chomp at that 26% one, get that paid all the way down as fast as possible because you're going to do that. If you combine everything, you're going to be able to do that quicker. So I always pay the most expensive credit card off first, meaning the highest rate, and then I go that way. Student loans, same thing. If you've got a really low interest rate and you have a minimum, pay the minimum, attack your credit cards first. Once your credit cards are done, don't close them because it'll impact your credit score. Keep something regular going on there, maybe something really small. But if you have credit card debt, I'm telling you right now, if you do not buckle down and not go out to eat, don't go out for drinks, don't do any of that shit, you're going to be in debt for the rest of your life. People say on Instagram and TikTok, oh, if you don't buy coffee for a year, that's not going to help you buy a house. Bullshit. Yeah, it will. I can guarantee there was a girl that told me her freaking coffee bill from KW, LA. Her coffee bill last year was $40,000 at Starbucks. Mind you, she's got properties though, but she does have a $40,000 Starbucks bill. But my Starbucks bill last year, I think, was $8,000. $8,000, 2 years, 16 grand. That's a down payment for sure. So if people say that you can't do it, I call bullshit. And also millennials, it is tougher to buy a house right now. It's not going to get easier. Just because your parents got to buy a house and we didn't, no one gives a shit because I'll buy them all. So like, stop thinking like, oh, we have it unfair. Life's not fucking fair. Things change all the time. You have to pivot to make it work. So I think the way to make it work, track and measure everything every single day and become obsessed about your finances. Become obsessed about money, taxes. Don't be scared to talk about money. It's okay that if your credit score is a 550, that's fine. It just better improve every single month. Mine right now, I think is like 847. I think 850 might be like the highest. I'm obsessed with it. I track it constantly. So going into this is how I have it on my Google Sheets. So these are some of my properties that I have. Right here, I put the address. I put the purchase price. I put the market value. And then I put the annual income, annual operating expenses, net cash flow, etc. So on here, I have 19 units on here. I have 44 units right now, and I'll have a 45th one. So if you have all these units, and the reason why you do an equity review is because you can go and see how much equity you have in your property every single year. So if you look and you see your market value, and you can go and look at what you owe remaining on it, that tells you your equity. So if you do an equity review every single month, it allows you to track and see how much cash you actually have, because then you can take money out, you can deploy it other places, you can maybe do a 1031 exchange. Best part about all this stuff is that you do a 1031 exchange, you can pull money out tax-free. If you don't do a 1031, you're going to actually end up paying tax on that capital gains. So you should know all of that stuff. When I say become obsessed about money, I'm going to give you a bunch of topics that you guys should study. And by the end of, I would say Q1, I would even say by the end of this year, you're not busy. If you're not making calls, you should be studying. This is my like famous saying is you need to be a landlord before you have a Land Rover. So anytime you have anything that's nice, it has to come from passive income. I'm a sucker for nice shit. I mean, I'd spend a lot of money on nice shit. I'm fine with it, but you need to make sure that you have passive income that pays for it. So if you want to go out and buy that new handbag, or you want to buy that new Mercedes or Range Rover, you need to make sure that that's from passive income, because otherwise you're just going to keep chasing that dream. There's always nice new stuff. So if you have your business plan for the year, it's to not buy shit, not go out to eat at the steakhouse where it's $150 steak, not go out for coffee every day. You can save enough to where you can actually invest and buy a property, especially with the 5% down. On this, cash from each check, let's talk about where you put your money. So each check, say you get $5,000 bucks. How much are you putting into your business account to reinvest? how much are you in your personal account, and how much to your tax account. So every person is going to be different. There's going to be different levels because people have businesses that they run. Team agents probably don't have to put much back into the business. So for me, over 50% of my money goes back into the business. So agents, if you're on like a 50-50 split and you're like, oh man, I'm paying 50%, the owner doesn't keep 50%. They're keeping like a small portion because of all the expenses to run it. So think about where money comes from. These are a screenshot of my actual accounts on the left-hand side. The reason why we have it, so it's Porchlight operating expense, 60%. That's why it has the 60. PL income, that's right there. That's where all the money comes into. So when we get checks dispersed into it, and this is just my Porchlight section, every one of my companies has different accounts set up. PL profit, 15%. PL owner, so to me, 10%. So when people think, oh, 50-50 split, Mark's walking away with all of it, I'd make more money if I just sold houses. No. And then lastly, tax, 15%. Because we're taxed as a corporation and because we have different ways to get deductions and things, it averages about 15%. When I told you guys about that 5% stock, this little income, and then 5% just gets put away, it's awesome because that's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It goes into a stock account. It's E-Trade. Don't have to worry about it. The remaining 95% gets divided up that way. Now, from our taxes, I go and I take the taxes of 15%. That, when I go and show you this here, guys, this is my Chase account. So when money comes into Porchlight income, I'll go, say it's $100,000 that comes in for the month. I'll go and I'll put $60,000 into Porchlight operating expense. By the way, the goal is 48%. So our goal is to drive operating expenses down. So it's in your face all the time. That's why that 48 is there. PL profit, 15%. Now our profit margin this year was 31.6%. That's a combination of profit, owner, and income remaining amount, but some of it gets divided up. So your PL profit can be yourself, or if you have like owner account, however you want it. And then the tax, that 15%. So that's all at a Chase Bank. Now, my tax account, I clear out every single month, or probably about every quarter, and I move that into an SDCCU account. It's just a local credit union. I do not have a debit card there. I don't have checking account. I don't have anything or like checks. I don't have access to it unless I walk in with my passport or my ID and I'm like, hey, can I get that tax money? The reason we do this is because when taxes come due, you have all the money in the world there to pay them. So right now in that tax account from the quarter, I think we have $300,000 in there. And because I'm going to owe $300,000 in taxes, that tax bill, when they come and say you owe 300 grand and you don't have the 300 grand, it's like a freaking dagger. So prep. And I know if you guys are newer and you're surviving like paycheck to paycheck, just get it out of sight, out of mind. It's not your money. So if you can't live off of what you made and you're dipping into that, you need to make more calls, do more open houses, do more prospecting, because you're borrowing money that's going to just bite you in the ass. We had a kid who sold 27 homes his first year, spent all the fucking money. He put new carpet and new floors into his rental property. I wanted to kill him. He quit our team because he's like, Mark, I literally need every dollar of every transaction. I can't pay splits, like all this stuff. I'm like, okay, so he sold 27 homes his first year, which is 2 years ago. Last year, he sold 7. He had no leads. He had no prospecting. He didn't have any shit. He's in deep shit right now with income. And now he owes back taxes. So do not get yourself into where you don't have that set away, because it will screw up your entire career for the rest of your life, because you'll constantly be chasing that money. Because when you go to pay it for the next year, say you make 100 grand, you owe tax on the 100 grand and you owe last year's taxes. So now you have no freaking income. It just is it's a vicious cycle. So pay attention to taxes. Also talk to your accountant or your financial advisor, but you probably should be forming yourself as an LLC, taxed as an S Corp. Reason being is you're going to get taxed much less. So you'll pay yourself like a W-2 employee. If you do not have a steady income yet, I would wait until you get enough to where you can be paying yourself W-2 every single 2 weeks so that you can stay on a payroll. You're going to have a payroll fee of probably $20 each time, whatever. Pay through Gusto is who I use. But if you pay yourself as a W-2 and then the profits is what you're going to get taxed on, it changes up your tax bracket drastically. So QuickBooks, I had this question. How do you categorize stuff in QuickBooks? Does anyone here use classes? Like they're kind of almost like categories on QuickBooks. Raise your hands. No one. I can't really see everyone because I have the display mode on. What the categories are, or what these are, is essentially you're going to go and put classes on each one. I divide mine up into 2 because I had a girl ask me, she said, hey, how do I know which ones are like actual, my team expenses, my expenses for real estate, etc. So if you're a team leader, I highly suggest categorizing one, like Donna Roberts Group would be one category, and that is your actual team. Or if it was called like Donna Roberts team, so you knew every single thing that was in there was actually your team. And then the other class would be called Donna Roberts Group. They're legal write-offs, but it may not be an expense that's related directly to your team. For example, if Donna goes to a conference, she can write that off. It may not be an expense for her team because it may be like an Airbnb conference. Or if it's a conference related to real estate to her team, she could maybe categorize that as a team expense. So if you want to chop up and have it all on one QuickBooks because it really is one tax return, use the classes within and have your accountant set that up or your bookkeeper. And what I do is once a month, on the 10th of the month, Matthew goes through it first. Actually, we have this little kid right there, my intern. He's probably going through my expenses right now being like, what the fuck did he spend money on? He goes through it first, then Matthew goes through it, then I go through it. So there'll be some categories, and what they do is they leave them in suspense category. If it's in suspense, that means Mark needs to review it. I review it, and then it gets categorized into the right spot for my bookkeeper, for my accountant. So when tax time comes due, totally organized. So put on your calendar every single time when you actually need to have that review. And I would say probably by the 10th of the month, have your assistant go through it first, and then you go through it. Easy to keep everything organized. Credit cards. Here's a tip. If you can't remember like organization wise, have one credit card for your real estate team, one credit card that's not your real estate team. I have Sapphire and I have American Express. If you need stuff for points for traveling, American Express, DM me on Instagram. I'll teach you how to get the most rewards for your points. Do not book through Amex Travel. You literally book through a points guy and you can travel all around the world for pennies. I got my family to first class to Nice, France from LAX for 80,000 miles. Like that's like dirt cheap. Another thing to consider when you're planning for your business plan, seasonality. What is your seasonality in your market? What is your seasonality for yourself? I'm telling you right now, I'm sure Q4 and Q1 are slower for everyone. So if you're hurting right now, just know you're probably going to be hurting a little bit through Q1 as well. But let's categorize it. This is exactly what we do for San Diego and for Porchlight. 17% is in Q1. Q2 is 31%. Q3 is 36. Q4 is 16. I found in colder markets, like Chicago, for example, it's even more drastic. So depending on your seasonality of what happens in your market, what could impact this? Interest rates. Freaking, if they go up in like a crazy market, like in Q3, that may impact buying, purchasing power. So then it's going to go down. So it's not exact, but I just want you to know if your goal is to sell 10 homes, you're not going to sell 2.5 homes in Q1, 2.5, Q2, 2.5, 2.5. It's literally going to be a little bit different. It'd probably be 2, 3, 3, 2. But if right now you don't have 2 hot buyers or 2 hot sellers, your Q1 is probably going to be pretty shitty. So then you can multiply that and put that into your dollar amount. So whatever your average commission check, like we talked about. Also, going off of like, if you're really planning out what you need, you should have kind of like 3 different goals when you're doing your vision boards. You should have, this is my baseline. Like, I know I'm not going to go get Starbucks twice a day. I've earned this Starbucks. No, but you're not going to get Starbucks twice a day or do something crazy. You're going to go and you're going to say, this is my baseline. Like, this is what I have to survive. Then you're going to have a different goal. And this is actually through Mary Maloney, who I think is on the call, but it's like your baseline, and then it's like your living goal, and then your dream. Like, could you imagine making $100,000 a month? That's my baseline. No. There was months I was making 500 grand a month. That was the COVID years, and it was glorious. And now it's gone. But that's why you got to always be on it. And here's the thing. It's like, oh, boo-hoo, more money, more problems, like Biggie Smalls kind of issues. You can get really out of hand. So despite like low level, whatever we're thinking on dollar amounts, do not ever get into that situation where you've got the G-Wagon and you've got the Rolls Royce and you got this, which all of you guys are all capable of having. Just don't do it. Go and get things that make you money. Like we talked about, set yourself up from the very beginning to have this lifestyle. I used to drive a shitty Mini Cooper, and I would go sell like a $2 million house, and they'd be like, oh, and I'm like, oh yeah, ignore my car. All my money that I make, I buy properties with. People respect that a hell of a lot more. Even if you don't have any money, just run with the story. Now I don't even know what kind of car do I have. I have 2 cars. I was like, what do I even have now? But that's like, if you use those, like I now have a nicer car, but that's not needed to sell real estate. I sold more real estate myself when I had a shittier car. People will respect you at any level. So don't think it's ever going to cause you what you need. Leads. You should always have 4 pillars. Reason being, if you're just on one pillar, you're going to get screwed if maybe Zillow pulls out the mat or Realtor.com doesn't convert like it does. So this is just an example, but Zillow, open houses, Sphere, past clients. Sphere would be people from maybe church, maybe your tennis club, your ski club. If you don't have those, go join them, because you should be building your Sphere to 3 people per day. It's called social currency. Ryan Serhant talks about this. If you get people to know, like, and trust you, and you are the real estate expert, you will absolutely crush it. I think we try to overcomplicate how things are. If you meet me at an event and you meet someone else that's a real estate agent, and we talk to the people about real estate, I'm probably going to come across as a better real estate agent. I have studied. I've been in this longer. I know my shit. Are there people out there that know more than me? Of course, but I'm great at lying. No, I'm great at just making sure I stay clear of what I don't know. Or I'm totally fine asking their opinion. If you're speaking to someone that's in your sphere or someone that you met at a charity event, which, by the way, charity events, especially during the holidays, fantastic events to go and meet people. Get out, look up on Meetup, find every single charity event, what's happening, pay the $40, pay the $100, buy a donation. You'd be surprised how long it goes. It's actually like, that is the best thing you can do. Plus 2 birds with 1 stone. Ideal schedule for agents, whether you're on a team or a solo agent. I always think prospecting first. Agents get into the office and they start thinking that they need to work on their escrow stuff. Escrow stuff will handle itself. Don't be too focused on the escrow. Focus more on getting the next client and working for the clients that you already have. I would try to set a goal to have 2 appointments per day, because we know no shows, cancellations, etc. But at that point, what are you doing? And always revisit, like, okay, I scheduled 2 appointments and 2 of them both no-showed me. Did you look up online and see what's the best way to confirm an appointment with the client? Did you schedule it a week out? That's not going to work. The closer to scheduling, the closer the likelihood that the person's actually going to show up. Day of appointment, fantastic. Next day, probably the furthest I'd want out. Seller appointments are always further out, but they'll have a no-show or a cancellation. And the other thing is, send them a video message, put it in their calendar, ask for their correct email. Hey, do you prefer Gmail? What do you have? Send them a calendar invite. Put the address on there. Remind them the night before. Shoot them a text. Hey, just reminding you, like, if you're having a huge no-show rate, there's a reason. You're either setting an unqualified appointment, or you haven't really won their service yet to where they believe that you're the person for them. Next one, have 12 to 1 working lunch, escrow updates 12 to 3, 3 to 5 personal time, 5 to 7 showings. If you don't have showings or a listing appointment, I would probably use that 5 to 7 time, go back and start prospecting. A girl on our team last month sold 7 homes. There's sales happening. What agent is going to get the sale is up to you. Just like Brian, how Eric said, hey, there's 9 agents at the table. 3 of you will not be in the business next year. Which 3 are you? That's what this team leader did. Speaking of, this girl's been in the business way too long. She should retire.
What's going on?
She has what's going on?
I know. Ideal schedule. Oh yeah. That is.
She actually spoke on the ideal schedule for an agent last week. So she's been on my team for 4 years, maybe 5. Absolutely crushes it. She's regimen because she knows she has a baby, so she's got to make every second count. So she comes in, does what she needs to do, and leaves. All right, on this accountability, which we talked about 2 weeks ago. This is how we set up accountability with our agents for our team when we're talking about if they make it or not. We just started doing this with our agents. Something you should do as well. 4 points of accountability: dials, conversations, open houses hosted, and appointments met. So you can see at certain levels what people's standards are. This agent here, she's been in the industry for maybe 20 years. So Cindy does not have to do a lot of dials to get an appointment. Emily is new, 400 dials, 1 open house hosted, 2 appointments met. So think about ways, and those are newer agents. Cami, same thing, 500 dials, conversations, open houses hosted, appointments met. If they make the goal, it's green, or exceeded the goal. If they hit the goal, it's yellow. And if not, it's red. 3 reds in a row is basically violation, agent off the team. So these are just filled in just to give it some color. They haven't completed these yet. They visit this every 2 weeks and they put their numbers in, and then it'll either be red, yellow, or green. And this goes back to you're setting your own goals. You're setting your own expectations. You have your own accountability partners. Now, is there a disconnect between you doing the work you need to do or your goals? Do you need to change your goals? Do you need to change your accountability? Where's the disconnect? Because if you're not doing it fully and you're not going through with this, what's the point of saying you're going to do it? Or what's the point of saying you're going to have those goals? We talked about this, master the process. I said you need to be an expert at absolutely everything so that because the likelihood of getting a client right now is lower, why not absolutely crush the fact that you need to know everything? So here's some things that we suggest to our agents on what they should know. If there's something on here where you're like, oh shit, I don't know it or I don't have it perfected, then you should really study that. And you should chop something up every single week and become an expert at it. So Section 121, 1031, 2-1 buy down, Prop 19, property taxes. By the way, a lot of that, Prop 19 is the only one that's California based. So if you're outside of California, and then 121, 1031, that's United States. But you should know all this stuff on here. Section 179. These are all little things how you can save money on your own taxes. But also if you're meeting a client at the charity event, like we talked about, these are the ways that you're going to be able to convince these people to work with you. Here are the books that we've selected so far for this Tuesday call. We're currently reading Wealth Without Cash. So if you guys are interested in joining this call on a regular basis, here are the upcoming books that we're going to do. There's some really big staples in there. Obviously, How to Win Friends, Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, 38 Letters to His Son from J.D. Rockefeller. So we're going to go over all these over the next year. If you're not reading, I would say a book a month. I would highly suggest that. That's where I learned most of my stuff. That's how I learned from others. And then really think about your 90-day commitments. So depending what you're working on, if you're a leader, if you're wanting to work on marketing, your finance, your health, your personal, write out your 90-day commitments and put them up in visual in your desk, at your office, on your mirror when you wake up, whatever you're going to see it on a regular basis. And that's how you're going to be able to accomplish your goals that we talked about in the very beginning and how you set them. You can talk about dials all day long, but skill sets and things and how you come about it, you got to track and measure it. Otherwise, you're not going to know how many dials you have to make in order to get an appointment. Also, attendees coming to an open house, people will say, oh, my open house kind of sucked. Only 2 people showed up. I'm like, damn, that's a buyer and a seller, or 2 buyers or 2 sellers. Like 2 people showing up, that's 2 opportunities. Did you make your calls? Did you have 2 people you talked to that were actually hot leads coming in? So change your mindset of how people coming in. I would rather have an open house where 2 people come up and have great conversations with me than 40 where it's just so damn busy and I don't actually get to connect with anyone. So times are going to be different. I think goals are going to be bigger than ever. You're going to have to actually work for them. Sales aren't just going to land in your lap. And when you do get that sale, good on you, because most agents right now, they say like 100,000 have dropped out. So keep that in mind. If you don't already, DM me if you're interested in a travel conversation or accountability, or if you want to jump on our accountability call with our agents, you're more than happy to. And then every Tuesday we do this mastermind. So we're always changing the topics. We're working on our plan for the November 12th, 13th, and 14th, which is going to be basically like a 50-page booklet on building out your business and everything we talked about. If you're interested on that, DM me. And then we also have an event in San Diego. So if you're Southern California, it's just a 1-day event, 12 to 4 on December 15th. But let's jump into any questions you have. Yeah, Mary talked about the survival, good life, and then the dream numbers. So if you're looking at wanting to set goals for yourself, figure out your survival by figuring out every single one of your bills that you have to pay no matter what. And then what would be a good life for you? And then what would be a dream? I would be safe to say that I'm living in my dream numbers right now, but as you continue, it changes. Things, you dream bigger. So think about how you are right now. My survival number went up as well. So think about all that stuff. It definitely helps. Any questions on this? Yeah, my survival now is like, I better check that survival number before too long. Zach knows my survival number. Zach, my lender. Zach, I'll have that lease to you later today. I'm refinancing a property. Any questions on this? Anything that you guys do differently? Would love to hear it. Mary, how's your stuff with your team planning? Derek, I know that you're on a badass team. Are you still on there? Right?
Yeah, still there.
Yeah.
I just did my personal business plan, so it was good to see what you were doing and what I can go back and tweak and change.
Yeah. I mean, do you, like, people talk about like, oh, number of conversations towards number of appointments. It's kind of bullshit. It's not that easy to do because everything changes, especially with rates. Like, we're having to have way more conversations with buyers. You're having a lot more objections. So when you're talking about role-playing objections, look up Barbara Corcoran. I think she's probably one of the more predominant real estate people in our market that's saying buy now, buy now, buy now, and then you can refi later. People look up to her. So lean into advice of others and share those stories with your clients if you're trying to convince a buyer. If you're trying to convince a seller, scare them. You know, the world is crashing. You're right. Tell them to turn on more news. Watch the news. Get out of here. Sell your home. So think about who you're trying to talk to and who you're trying to convince. You also have to believe it as well. So if you're not in belief that real estate, in my opinion, you buy real estate and you wait, and it could be so many different levels, so many different times. You're either competing against 100 offers or you're the only offer and you can maybe get seller closing costs covered. If you're an agent on our team, we let our agents have 100% of all their of their own deals. So put that towards closing cost, buy a place, contact all those people that are young, 5% down November 18th for a multi-unit. Call every single out-of-state landowner that owns a multi-unit because they're tired of being a landlord. Old people hate being landlords. Young people are dumb and optimistic. We don't realize how shitty it is yet. No. But that's the people you have to go after. Get your young, like 5% down on $1 million place. That's so cheap nowadays. Still $50K, but you can get gift funds. There's so many opportunities. And there are $1 million places out there. In LA, Howard, there's an agent on the KW LA team. He was like, there's no $1 million fourplexes in LA. I pulled up 4 of them and I was like, that one's one, that one's one, that one's one, that one. And the buyers that are young that live in the luxury apartments that are like, well, I don't want to live there. Well, they're going to be chasing that lifestyle for the rest of their life. You got to get them out of that mindset, realizing, hey, get in here. This is just a stepping stone to get to the next place. And if you're in that same moment, if you're renting and you don't own, you got to think about that too. What else do you
Mark,
guys have?
question for you.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for allowing me to come to this. I know I'm outside of your group. A ton of value. A couple of things I really liked is the charity events, showing up to that. I think that's brilliant. Especially, I'm kind of chasing the luxury market out here in LA, so I think it's a great way to network. So I love that idea. In terms of the 4 pillars of business, also I really appreciate that idea. How do you recommend like really loving on your past clients? Like, is there anything you do specifically or you recommend?
So, I mean, we talked about this in LA. It'd probably be a little bit more difficult than other cities because LA has amazing events, especially if you're going after luxury clientele and you're trying to get that luxury clients to show up to an event. It's like you're competing against Netflix event. You're competing against the Grammys. You're competing against so many big things that are happening. And how often are your clients actually in town? So I would focus on maybe like, to me, and Mary's amazing at this, so I would hit up Mary about this. Handwritten cards for birthdays, anniversaries, stalking them on social media. So I would go and have a list of every one of your clients in a Google Sheet and have every one of their Instagrams listed. And I would go on their Instagrams and comment on stuff at least once a week. Cute baby, cute this. So then you're top of mind. Make sure your name is clear. You know, if it's like Brian the realtor, you know, whatever it is, make sure that they know who you are. That goes a long way because if you're top of mind on a regular basis, and then set them up, Client Giant is a good gift, like giving service, but I don't think it lets you pick the gift. There is another company where it sends them a thing and they get to pick the gift. I used to buy the knives on the what company is that? Cutco. So if I became friends with the people, I'd give them a knife and it says, if you use another agent, I'll cut you. And it'd have my phone number. So you got to plan into it. If I didn't really connect with them, I definitely wouldn't give that to them. And there's like a butter knife, like, you know, like little things like, but with high end, don't just give them crap. Like maybe give them, that's the problem is like rich people don't need anything. So you really got to lean into like the connection, the emotional connection. Find out their charities. Every rich person has a charity. And then be a part of it. How can I bring my clients to this charity event? So you co-event, you know, like, okay, I'm going to bring all my past clients or maybe invite 20 of them to your charity event. That client will then be like, you're amazing. You brought 20 people and you're connecting people in LA. So I think that would probably be what I would go to. Lean into heart. Mary, do you think of anything that with past clients in LA, what they would do?
Well, not so much past clients, but what you're just talking about, you know, one of the best things you can do with that kind of thought thread that you were on there is partnering with these nonprofits and doing events with them, because then they will send your event to all of their database. Because what you're really after is getting their database. So if you have an amazing listing and you also somehow turn it into a charity event at the listing, then they're inviting their clientele, and then there's some sort of auction or something happening at your house that the money then goes back to their charity. They will then send your event to all of their database. And getting in with that charity to get access to that database, like that's gold. Like that's where it's at. So like, you know, Ronald McDonald House, raising money for Children's Hospital, all of these different, I mean, in the old days, we called this affinity marketing. But if there are shelters that, you know, a lot of affluent people like to donate to. If you do some sort of Santa Paws event where they can bring their dogs and get pictures with Santa, and they're mailing it, they're sending that out to their database. Like those kinds of little things get your name in front of these nonprofit databases. And I mean, you can't even pay for that.
Dude, I just thought about it. If you lean in, because wealthy people all love charities. Even, I mean, you could do this across the board, but in LA specifically, I think charity is the way to lean in. You could pick a charity a quarter, and all your open houses, everything kind of is like tailored around that. Or you do something where it's like almost every month you have a different partnership with the charity. It just might be a lot being you have a smaller team. But if you grow, you could do something like where every month, and you have agents that are on your charity squad attend these charity events, and then they're pushing out stuff like Mary talked about at your luxury listing. Yes. And we do a dog adoption event every single year. That goes a long way. And then you have all your swag up, you got your pop-up tents. I just do happy hour and then invite all my clients every single quarter, and that's been like our go-to. I just
Yeah,
figured in LA that might be hard to compete with in LA. Traffic, events, things going on.
Yeah, in 2024, we're going down to 2 major events. One family focused and then one just kind of adult focused.
Strip club.
In 2024. We do send gifts to our top people. What did you say?
I said strip. You said adult focus, and I said strip club.
Oh, yeah. But you know, like the Taylor Swift movie is coming out. You know, that could be an event, you know, something around that. But getting down to just 2 events, because trying to do 1 a quarter was just becoming too much. We still do pies. We'll make 100 pies at my house the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. But those types of things, we focus on Thanksgiving and Valentine's Day. Like we love our clients because no one's doing Valentine's Day. You kind of get lost in the shuffle around Christmas. So we really focus on gratitude. And then, you know, we love our clients. It's pretty quick. And then we try and do something around the summertime. That's probably when we'll do our family barbecue style event. But yeah, we're kind of limiting the events to really watch our expenses, and then trying to do some other things with the gifting and that sort of thing. Gifting actually is cheaper than doing events when your database gets, you know, when you're trying to scale a large database.
The Valentine's Day one that would be really good, Brian, in LA. You call all of your past clients that are guys, and you let them know, hey, look, I made a reservation at these 12 restaurants. Like, let me know which one you want. It's for 7 o'clock on Valentine's Day night. And they're gonna be like, dude, thank you so much, because literally no restaurant has availability. And then if they're like, oh, we broke up, like, oh, really? You did? Where is she moving? Where's he moving? No. Then you got a sale. No. But that's a great one for everyone in the market. Yeah. So that's a great one in everyone's market, is like make those reservations and do it in like late January, you know, probably mid-January. Call ahead and get a reservation for Valentine's Day. And then if not, you can just give it away to all your friends and everyone else if they don't take them. Other questions? Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Feel free. Set those damn goals. It's not going to be an easy year. But I feel like if we just put our head down, just watch your expenses. If you have a good few months, save it. Good agents will be around. We'll be fine. There'll be sales that happen. It's just going to be less than what we're used to. So, and it's already happening. It's been happening for a while. So you should be kind of used to it, but just don't expect to change. In my opinion, from what I've heard, is not going to change much more over the next year. Wah, wah.
Thanks for letting me jump on. I got to jump to my coaching call.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed. And then if you want the recording, you can DM me. I will be saving that as well and sending that out. All right. Thanks, guys.